So this session is with Arjan Surat, who is the head trainer of the Thai national team, and he trains out of his gym, Dejrat, in Bangkok. He has been a very well-known trainer for a very long time. He's in his 60s. He's in great shape. He's very hardcore. He swears a lot. He's very intense, but he's also an incredibly wonderful man, and he will get the best out of you if you open your heart to it. Putting him in the library, getting him for the library is exactly what the ethic of the Preserve the Legacy project is about. It's capturing not only the legends of Muay Thai, the fighters of Muay Thai, but also the great crews of Thailand. And if you're talking about the best trainers and crews of Thailand, you have to be talking about Arjan Surat in that conversation. I've trained with him before at Dejrat Gym, so in this session, we've worked together before, which you might see a little bit of things that he's talking to me about or showing me are things that he's shown me this technique before, but he's making elaborations on. But that's one of the amazing things about him as well, is that he just makes these very fine-tuned corrections, but he is super insistent on them. So this is Arjan Surat, and I hope you guys dig it, because I think he's amazing. This is one of the things that you have to know about Arjan Surat and his technique, is that he's gonna hit you back a lot. Here he's having me jump on one teep, but not on the other teep. He's making a distinction that I don't quite get at the start. If I'm using my front leg, so that's my right leg, I don't jump. If I'm using my back leg, which is a power teep, he wants me to jump on it. So I had misunderstood him before because I thought he was actually giving me different techniques of like, no, don't jump, yes, jump. And I was confused. But he's talking about the different sides, which is actually one of the more brilliant things about the way Arjan Surat teaches, is that he'll give you couples of like, you do it this way on this side and you do it that way on that side. And it makes a big impact on how you're affecting your opponent. One of the things that's so intense about him and why him being in charge of the Thai national team, why he's so hardcore, is that he will make it hard for you and he will teach you how to do it and then throw you down on it a million times. But your defense has to be built in. He's telling me not to hunch. So he's making me kick him hard, and then he's catching it and forcing me to balance. See how I'm bringing my weight forward and my hand is against him? By putting my arm out straight, I'm protecting from punches, but by leaning in, I take the pressure off of my own leg that he's trying to lift to off-balance me. So you have to have this very automatic response. The moment your kick is caught, your opponent's going to try to lift it, and so that's why you hop, and that's why you lean in. But you have to hop with how the opponent is moving you. He brings this guy in order to show me the technique of how he's tripping me. See how he's just kind of pulling on the standing leg with the bottom of his foot? You don't do that in a fight so much. You do this in training, but it's not that different from what he's doing right there. You just kick it out. It's harder in a fight, the way you like trip it out. He's using the bottom of his foot so it doesn't want to hurt this guy. But see how he catches it, and there's a moment to let all the judges see that you caught it, and then there's the trip. It's not like rushing the movement, but it's also very fluid. If you are a trainer and you're watching this, look at the way he holds pads. It's really beautiful. So what he's trying to get me to understand here is that I'm keeping my hands on his hands, so it's guard against guard, and I'm feeling the rhythm of the two of us. And as there's pressure against pressure, I take the pressure away and then throw the elbow. I forgot again. The jump on the back teeth, but balance and steady on the front teeth. It's a difference in power. Because you're using your power side on that back side, that's why you can jump on it. Look at, see how he's putting together the hook and the elbow? the shoulder moves in a way that is consistent with that hook and then the elbow. The little pieces that he's putting together are like figuring out different techniques that flow together by distance. You're always closing distance. Look at the look on his face. I adore him so much. When he shows you the weakness in whatever it is that you're doing, he does it with a little bit of violence so that you have fear against what he's doing, and then he makes you train the fear out of it by doing it over and over and over again. He's smiling. I've worked with him before where he caught my kick and he taught me what to do when my kick is caught, and he lets me be comfortable like you did that right maybe 2 or 3 times, and then he just dumps me over and over and makes me understand that it's okay if you get thrown also, as long as you're doing the technique to try to prevent it. Here he's making me keep my arm out after the cross as the block. So instead of bring your hand back really fast, which is what a lot of people will train you, he's saying keep the punch out as the protection, and then that knee is just going to come right under it and destroy your opponent because they are not anticipating that. See how he didn't put his foot down? So there's the kick, and then he floats it, and the teep. I don't have any power on the teep when I do that because my balance is a little off. But you learn that by doing it over and over again, and the power comes from you figuring out your balance by doing it many times. But look at how by borrowing the techniques that he's showing me, leaving that cross out as the block, keeping my hand in his face when he's trying to counter me, it allows me to stay in a really nice, steady way. So here he's explaining to me if you're southpaw and you're facing another southpaw,
use the back leg when you're
then you use your back
stance.
leg.
Yeah.
But if you're southpaw and you're facing orthodox, if it's mixed stance, then you want to be going towards this open side. See how if we have mixed stance, so we're front foot to front foot, if I try to use my front teep, it's very easy for him to catch it. So he's like, instead of teeping my belly, teep my leg. He says only Sanchai will reach down and grab that teep because he's a trickster, but it's dangerous. He's saying don't bother teeping the body in mixed stance, teep the leg because it's right there, and you can interrupt all of the kicks to the open side. He's showing me how that works. He's just barely touching my leg, but he's hitting me right above the knee. He's saying that one of his students, when people come to kick him, he just hits that front leg and it destroys kickers. So if you're facing a kicker, go after that front leg, especially if you're mixed stance. He's showing how there's pain in it, that face that he's making, and it's true. If you hit right above the knee, it buckles the knee backwards. You're not nailing it hard. You're not like injuring somebody, but you're throwing off their ability to throw that kick at all. And now, since you've stopped them and you're closing in, this front elbow just comes straight up. He's saying that Muay Thai PK Sanchai Gym is really good at this elbow. He's been called the modern day elbow hunter, Muay Thai, but he's not anything like Yod Kun Pan, who's in the library, but he does throw a lot of elbows. I was discovering while throwing this front elbow that I was kind of veering off to the side, and it was about how I rotated my shoulders, which is what he talks about on this kick as well. One of the reasons you keep your guard up so high on the kick is not only so that you're protected on the end of it and you can really be assured of your kick, but it also controls the kick in a really nice way to control your upper body at the same time. So here he's having me do a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch and then push his head and elbow off of it. So this is another way in which Arjan Surat is teaching how to close distance, but he also has this like pushing against to off balance the moment before you go. He likes those elbows. See how he gets so close and just comes up on it. one of the beautiful things about the way he teaches his students and the way that he's holding pads for me, the way he emotes the response of the opponent, like making these faces or like, oh, or that's gonna hurt, any of these things, like it's training you to look for a response in affecting your opponent. So he's still trying to get me to understand this front leg versus back leg in mixed stance. He's standing orthodox, and I keep insisting on using my front leg. Here he wants more of a roll on that shoulder for the elbow. But see how he wants me to push with my front arm first in order to, you push the opponent back, and they're either going to resist you, which allows them to like fall into your elbow, or they're just going to be stopped in place. Oh. He's saying if I jab and you don't go back, that's where that elbow comes. If you jab and the opponent goes back, that elbow is not going to have any power. It's not going to land. So it's when the opponent is resisting you, when they're opposing you, and you feel it with your jab. You feel whether they're moving back or not. So he wants that jab, jab, and then like the upward elbow followed by that angled back elbow. Look at how he tucks behind it. Oh. His head tucks behind it. He doesn't even teach me that. He just does it in his own form. It's so beautiful. He's all about this like protection on your offense. His fighters are so hardcore. Like they're so tough. I like how he struts around too. Watching Arjan Surat's attitude and disposition is amazing. He's an incredible man. Look at how he tucks his hand around the inside of the teep. So when I'm teeping, he's putting his hand actually in a position where someone would be sweeping it. So you have to like aim your teep right into the sweet spot. See that push into the elbow? He's waiting for me to feel his resistance so that I can collapse that elbow into him. It's like a double clash. See how he uses the like awful feeling of getting caught and thrown over to teach you to like really respond quickly to an opponent kind of doing something that you wouldn't expect. Like you expect the defense. Here he's teaching me when to hop, like how to hop in order to keep my balance. And then as I'm hopping, when my foot lands back down, I push my leg again, and it's like a secondary teep to get him off of me. Here he didn't quite understand my question, and so he's saying if they grab your teep and they pull it to the side, your foot is not on their body. So instead of doing another teep, if your foot is to the side of their body, you straighten your leg really hard and push with all your weight down like that. But if when they catch it, your foot is against their body, that's when you hop and do the second teep. So the way you choose between those two is whether your foot has been pulled to the side of their body already or not. Look at the beautiful distance he makes me keep. He likes the elbows. He's happy about the elbows. So here I'm explaining to him how I feel that I'm kind of like dipping over to the side, like how do I stay straight? Look at his front leg and his hip. See how I'm putting my butt back as I'm doing it? That's why I'm veering off to the side a little bit. If you bring your hip in and really think about that elbow coming up, that's how you stay straight. You have to like tuck your other shoulder in a little bit. He does this amazing thing when he's holding pads for his fighters. He'll put himself against the ropes and have them kick over and over and over again, and then he'll dodge one and make them just deal with having missed. The way he trains all the different elements of defense, offense, things that are unexpected, being countered, missing, all of these things are important. I love his heavy leg thing when your kick is caught or your teep is caught and you just straighten your leg and make it really heavy. There's a fighter at my gym who does that. It's really good. Okay.
I punch, doom. I punch, doom. No, you.
Oh.
I punch.
So see how he's teaching me that when you punch someone, when they dodge you, like when they move back, you anticipate or you feel that they've moved back, and this is when you throw this spinning back elbow, is when they're trying to get out of the way of you. So he wants me to hook because if your hook misses, you're already going in the direction that you're going to be going for that back elbow. I was jabbing.
Look at it.
See how I'm not looking at where my elbow's going? Watch him. See how it kind of comes over and down like a rainbow? Yeah. Important in this is where your feet land. Like, you really have to be covering distance in order for this to land on someone who's trying to dodge away from you. But understanding how the trajectory of a hook and how missing that hook, you're just sticking to the same trajectory that you were doing anyway. It's not throwing a back elbow for the purpose of being fancy. When I spun around, he just teeped my leg. That's totally if you're trying to be fancy and someone anticipates it, they're just going to teep your leg. Here on this spin, I'm not coming close enough to him. That's why I completely miss. See how there's no way I can land that on him because of the way I'm turning? I have to commit to, on my miss, closing distance. See how I felt it with my front arm first? And then I have to step my foot close to his foot on the back elbow. Actually, on everything that I'm doing right now, my feet should be tracking his feet.
1, 2. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang. Boom.
So see how he's piecing these things together? And the like unexpected fancy moves, like the back elbow or the like super hard elbow or the upward elbow, these are coming off of the opponent thinking that they're doing something to dodge you. It's when they change distance and you've got an unexpected move on top of their unexpected move. We kind of surprised him, asking him for technique, and so he's kind of thinking as he's going. He has so much technique. He has so much to pull from in his decades of experience. He's trained some very big names in Thailand. He himself is a huge name in Thailand. Here he's showing me how when you miss your kick and you turn around, you just come with another kick. He said my boy used to do this. The boy who used to do this is
what's his name?
Very famous.
Oh, famous.
So see how you just come with the next thing on the other side of it? Like, you can keep spinning even if you miss. This is not a ridiculous, like, I'm doing a fancy move. This is not a show move. But I was surprised that I was able to do this. The only reason I was able to do that is because he had just taught me on that spinning back elbow how to close distance on missing. That's why I'm able to do this second kick. But where my front leg is going is like 90% of whether this is going to work or not.
It's pretty good.
And again, controlling your upper body on the kick controls how you're going to land off of it. Like, having balance on the end of something is, on a kick, is your upper body or on knees. Anything lower body, the balance is actually your upper body. And as a boxer, you got to control your legs.
Yes.
That was unexpected, him making me do it 3 times. But if you can do it once, you can do it 5 times.
He's famous, right, man?
Yeah, he's the one who's up in Isan now.
He in Hassan now?
Don't eat he Isan. He still fights sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Rotenarong still fights sometimes. He's in his 40s, I think mid or late
Three.
40s, and he still fights
Three
sometimes.
down. Ah, ah, ah.
I like that taking a move that's a little bit funny, like repeated turning kicks or spinning back fists or something that seems kind of, to me, a little bit ridiculous. By doing it like this, what you're actually training is 1, balance, 2, persistence, and 3, not being thrown and stopping by missing. Like, you have to train missing.
Great for making you stay close.
It feel good, yeah.
So I could feel how using this technique was teaching me to stay close. So he's going back to upper body. So it's the same footwork. It's the same thing of someone missing.
One long, maybe.
So he's saying Wan Chalong
No, out.
is really good at this like back fist.
One long.
Wan Chalong is quite famous now.
Famous
Famous?
now, like contemporary.
Mm.
Kick.
Wait.
So see how I wasn't close enough? I have to be even closer than I was on the kicks because my arm is not as long as my leg is.
That'd be nice.
So choosing whether you're going to be doing a back fist, a back elbow, or another kick also depends on how far away you are from your opponent and where they're going. If they're veering off at an angle, they might be farther away. You might have to use the kick, whereas if they're cutting off towards me, that might be a better option for the back fist or the back elbow. I'm not controlling my upper body because I'm using my upper body. So I'm struggling a little bit more on that one than I was on the kick. But again, it's using the opposite balancing point. So if you're doing something with your legs, oftentimes it's your upper body that's balancing it. Here, again, he's like calling upon very famous fighters and pulling these techniques that he likes, that he remembers. He says this was Kutler Lek. Kutler Lek was a very famous southern fighter from just prior to what most people know of the Golden Age. He was actually known for grabbing the ropes and kicking the head a lot, but this not putting the foot down and coming forward with repeated teeps.
Oh, Kutler-Lek.
This teaches you to have balance on any teep you throw by doing something repeatedly like this. See how I have to control my standing leg in order to not bring the teep down in between? So if you have to do something on the other side of your teep, it makes your teep better. Like it teaches you the technique of how to throw a proper teep.
Balance.
Balance. It's all about balance. People are like the head kick expert. It's an awesome gym. They take these bags down after training and park cars in there. Such a cool space.
Technique there.
Tight.
So he's teaching me technique of the kick.
Boom. And
So he makes you keep your arm in your opponent's face on your kick. There are different schools of whether you throw your arm down for torque or whether you keep your arm up for defense. He is 150% the keep the hand up in your opponent's face as a guard. He'll show me why.
boom.
So if I use my arm for torque, if I throw it down behind me, he's just going to hook me and knock me out right there.
Boom. Yeah. No. Yeah,
See how high he wants it? He wants the hand going like up to the top of his head. So my jaw and my cheek are completely hidden by my shoulder when I do that. And you should be able to stop on the end of your kick.
Boom. Yeah. And yeah. You know. Boom. Kick.
See how he's showing me how if he throws a counter and I'm protected,
He's
I
gonna
can
hit
throw
you.
the next kick right under his counter. It becomes a like arms race where you always have the next thing because built into your offense is a defense. And he's showing that like is that when you're going back and forth, they may have a counter a couple of times, but then you get the kick underneath when they're not expecting it.
Boom. This.
Or you get the punch when they don't have their hand up.
It's from that kick.
He has this really incredible knee fighter at his gym. He's very tall, he's very young, and he just gets beat on by Arjan Surat and his other trainers. But it's like this. I'm getting the delicate version, where when I kick, he's showing me where the openings are and where to be protected. They will just beat the shit out of this kid while he's throwing his knees to get him to throw his knees through everything. And he is incredible. When you watch him in the ring, he's a tank. He just will go through everything. See how he's trying? It's like, no problem. This is so Arjan Surat. You kick and I counter you and it doesn't hit you, it just hits your shoulder, no problem. I'm asking whether you come up on your toe on the kick or whether you really twist your foot. He's like, yeah, come up. But look at how much flex he has in his foot, how much he turns it. But when you step, you're already stepping at an angle and then you twist more at the end of it. He's saying it allows you to have flexibility on the end. It allows you to move. So if you don't land where you want to, or if they grab you or anything like that, your foot can move.
Standing, you know? Cannot. And move.
See how he's showing how if you're on the toe and your heel can swivel, you're able to move. You can kick farther if you need to, or you can hop if you need to. If you're flat on your foot, you don't have flexibility in that leg to adjust to whatever your opponent is doing if they catch your kick.
Pivot, baby. He wants to pivot.
Not have to hop.
Yeah, he wants.
If you're flat-footed, absolutely hop in order to create that flexibility.
Even. Boom. Boom.
Look at him correct my arm every time, how it kind of comes across his body a little bit. So he wants me to build in the defense before my kick. So because he wants people coming forward, he wants his fighters coming forward. You have to defend on the way in, and then you can throw your counter.
Muay Thai, you know?
แทงเขา
So I'm asking about the guard when you're throwing knees, and he's like, yeah, it's the same.
Same.
See how he puts it on the top of my head, and then knees underneath. But by putting his arm across the body like that, see how I'm protected by any hook he's trying to throw on that side, and any punch he's trying to throw on the other side. I have my arm bent.
No chance.
Here you can see the opposite.
Oh.
That's the opposite.
No.
So see how you have the guard up and then the long arm that's like grabbing. But you're protected on all sides. Like, there's no such thing as a guard that's 100% protected, but that's as close to max protect as you can get on a strike.
Oh. Cannot.
So he even wants you to feel that there's going to be counters on your movement, and then you have your counter on top of that. Like, you, not only do you build defense into your offense, you actually build anticipation of counters into your strikes.
have to jump.
I'm asking him about when I'm training on my own and I'm playing with the bag. Do I wait for the bag to swing back towards me, or do I keep it when it's going away? And he's saying, watch the bag. But so he's actually juggling it for a little while with like nice timed teeps, but then he adds on this like jumping twisted teep at the end of it that's the power teep to get someone off of you. He's showing me the context of when you use this. He's saying if the opponent's losing already, they're gonna have to be coming forward. So if you win already and you're going backwards in a fight, you have to teep while you're going backwards in the fifth round.
Then
so
you
you're
really
like
win, yeah.
teep juggling your opponent, and then you do this like super powerful side teep, and like you don't even have to be scoring points, but you're scoring dominance in that round. See how relaxed he is? You train that relaxation, and then you build the power teep with timing. See how he backs up first and kind of like coaxes the opponent to come forward? He's always thinking about how it works in the ring. It's beautiful. Not only does he train the Thai national team, but the Filipino national team comes and trains with him before IFMAs all the time. like the king of trainers. These are his fighters. They always finish training with clinching and conditioning at this gym. And they're doing man in the middle because this kid has a fight coming up. He loves fighters with heart. He sees them and he like keys in on them, and he is like so generous with fighters who show heart. Look at how he watches too. He swears and yells at people a lot, but he really builds confidence physically. So he wants me to be practicing how to use the teeth to kind of juggle distance and then use a strike on the end of it. I'm just playing around with things that he showed me in our session, because you have to be able to train these things on your own. Like, you can't only depend on these things with your trainer on pads or things like that. You have to train them everywhere and become really comfortable with them.
My weight's coming this way, like I'm coming across.
So it was actually on the bag that I discovered this, tucking my shoulder in a little bit in order to straighten out that stabbing elbow. So he's asking me about whether I have a fight coming up, and I had actually just fought. He thinks it's so funny that I fight opponents so much bigger than myself. He has this answer that so many of these men with lots of experience have, which is that you're never supposed to fight more than 2 or 3 kilos bigger, because that's how it is at the stadia, the national stadia. But he also loves that I fight big people. Like, he laughs and thinks it's ridiculous, but he really loves it as well. But kind of what I love about this part of the session, with him walking around and talking to me while I'm working on the bag, is that you have to put in your own work in his gym. Like, he's very hardcore, and he insists on his technique and his corrections, and he really pushes his fighters. But when it's time to go on the bag, you got to put in your own work and work the stuff on the bag. Otherwise, you're just going to be getting your ass kicked by him forever. You have to get better to like meet his expectations, because they're really high, but they work. Like, his technique works really well.
Step on the elbow.
Yeah.
Is that this keeps everything
Because of the shoulder?
So by controlling your upper body and controlling your protection with your shoulders, it makes everything you're doing with your weight more balanced and controlled, even for closing in.
No problem.
Maybe.
This is showing a little bit of Arjan Surat as a man.
But 3 rounds,
The way
no
he
timing,
talks.
you know.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
He's complaining about 3-round fights, which have become incredibly popular on big promotion international shows in Thailand.
Sylvie,
You know.
He's saying that in 3-round fights, there's no timing. Like, there's no thinking.
He's saying
It's
3
basically
round
like
Muay
Krabi
Thai.
Krabang, where you're just like clashing your
Timing.
swords against each other all the time.
Every
He doesn't like it.
Yeah. Everywhere.
government now, government.
He says that the government now
Muay Thai
is
maybe.
controlling,
Oh, you think?
like trying to shut down
Government
more
stop?
of these
Yeah.
3-round
Same,
productions.
you know.
That would be very good.
You
For a
see,
little while, MX Muay Thai
Kop.
was shut down. That's the 3-round international fights wearing MMA gloves. It's in a ring, but it's MMA gloves. And for a while they were stopped, and so he's talking about that. He said that the government had stopped them.
Cobb.
They got a huge
Takun, Takun.
Takun, yeah.
financial
Finish now.
investment
Oh,
from China
MX.
and have come back.
He's saying the government is going to
Yeah.
shut down 3-round fights.
Yes, finish.
He's saying government shut down,
Yes.
close. That's good.
Arjan Surat and I
Big
agree
Sylvie, no
on
fight 3 rounds.
Big
She
government.
won't.
Hey,
3-round
yo.
versus 5-round
No,
distinction.
no, good.
Oh, because it changed Muay Thai.
He's from a different time.
Muay Thai changed. Just say it.
Not
He's
same.
from the
Say it.
Golden Age, and he trained people who were fighting in the Golden Age. So the way that I see changes in Muay Thai
Oh,
at
big
my
gloves.
age and as a foreigner and all these things is
Oh,
just a
MMA.
shadow
Yeah, yeah.
compared to the way that he sees these changes.
Maybe a fighting coming
Yeah.
long time, but no. Government they say no. Children to see.
He's saying that they keep trying to get MMA in
Muay Thai.
Thailand, and the government keeps
Gentlemen.
saying no.
You know, Muay Thai
Because
gentleman.
Muay Thai is a
Jumbo,
gentleman's
3-round
sport,
fight.
He says
and
Muay Thai
MMA
is a
looks too
gentleman's
brutal.
sport. they don't want MMA. It's
No,
brutal.
MMA.
Yeah,
They
but
see children.
I don't care about MMA.
MMA,
3-round Muay
okay.
Thai. Like Muay
I
Thai
think he's
max.
only talking about
Okay,
MMA.
I think that he
Hey,
sees 3-round
Babi,
fights
okay.
as being
He said
similar
they closed
to
max down.
MMA in this like clashing,
Sylvie.
What? Muay Thai.
no rhythm, no
Maybe.
thinking.
Maybe.
Next
Because 3-round.
Yeah.
There are actually different sanctioning bodies between 5-round fights, which are the Muay Thai Authority, and 3-round fights, which are
ID.
a
You
different
cannot say
sanctioning
you
body in
can't-
Thailand.
Yeah.
He does not like
No
it.
technique. No.
No technique, he
Yeah.
says.
Beautiful.
No timing. It's not beautiful, he says.
Now, back Muay Thai every day. No boxer, maybe.
He's saying now that Max Muay Thai has shows every night, they can't keep up with high quality shows, that they basically just have to pull everybody that they possibly can because they have shows every night. He's not a fan. I'm explaining to Arjan's wife what the Preserve the Legacy project is, what the Muay Thai library is, and why we're including Arjan Surat. And I'm explaining that in the West, we don't know a lot of the best fighters of Thailand. We're starting to. And going and putting them in the library and preserving their technique is really important because it's disappearing. And when I was telling her, Arjan Surat overheard me when I was saying Muay Thai now is not like Muay Thai from before, and he just glowed. He knows that that's the case, and he loves that I know that that's the case. But I love that we put him in the library. He is
Yod Muay.
so
But now they know
precious.
name Yod Muay. They come, they train with Karahat, they train with Diesel Noi.
It's nice because when people watch
she's worried
the Muay Thai
about
library
his
and they
technique
start to
being
see
given
the
to
technique of
everybody.
these
Yeah.
former
Yeah,
fighters
otherwise
from the
only
Golden
Max
Age,
Muay
or people like Arjan Surat, they come and they try to learn it themselves. They come and they train with these people, which to me is really beautiful. It's part of the purpose of the Muay Thai library, and thank you to my patrons who make that possible, and the sponsors of the Muay Thai library.